Says we are alive. Let's check. Mic check.
Mic check. Mic check. 1, 2.
There we go. All right. January 17th, 2025. Happy New Year to everyone. Patrick, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me? Mic check. Mic check. 1, 2.
There we go. Yep,
All
we're
right.
good. Cool.
All right.
So Patrick's back on the show. Patrick is one of our guests from a couple years ago. I want to make an announcement. I have released the first article that I've done since tail end of 2022. It's called Sawana Nowhere. It is on the American Sun. You guys can check it out. Pretty proud of that one. Some people said it's my best work yet. And it's about my time living in Western North Carolina and a little bit about Hurricane Helene. Fortunately, I had left the area long before the hurricane hit North Carolina. A bit of an anomaly to have a hurricane affect the Appalachian mountain range. And I plan on doing a show with Myth of the 20th Century about Helene and a little bit about what's going on in Los Angeles. But digressing, Patrick, how are you?
Dude, I'm good, man. I'm glad you weren't there when all that shit went down because I saw all the drone footage and all the news stuff that came out of West North Carolina, and that looked like a fucking mess.
Yeah, I was down there about about a month ago, a little over a month ago, and I was trying to make time to go and visit my mother, who was obviously affected by it. I also have a rental property down there. Wanted to make sure that that was okay. Thankfully, it was. And my mother went 9 weeks without water. Imagine a
That's
74-year-old
fucking
woman
crazy.
by herself going 9 weeks without water. Strange just how women's psychology works. She would freak out about making a wrong turn and getting lost, but going 9 weeks without water, totally okay. Totally fine.
Sounds like a tough lady.
Again, I mean, this is the MGTOW chats, and women are strange and peculiar creatures, to say the least. For whatever reason, my mother tends to take things like this with a grain of salt and doesn't necessarily bother her, or she maybe doesn't really grasp the reality of what's transpiring around her that well. So the bigger picture she doesn't necessarily grasp so well, but whatever's happened there now in the present certainly does, and has played quite a bit on my psychology growing up. But I want to first off by stating that me and Patrick did get to meet. We went to a Deftones concert in Atlanta, which was amazing.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Deftones, best rock live show I have ever seen in my life. I saw them in 2010. It was one of the best experiences of my life, actually, and I want to share a little bit about it. So I was about maybe 22 at the time. Yeah, hang on.
Yeah, I think I saw Deftones at Jones Beach when I was in high school in the late '90s, and they were dope. I was really impressed with when we went to see them recently. I was really impressed with the Gojira
Yeah, the
set.
opening
They
band.
did a
Yeah,
really good,
the
yeah, really
drummer
good
was
job.
great.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
drummer stole the show. We're like, God damn, that guy's good. Your
Yep,
band is
yep.
only as good as your drummer, as Joe Strummer once stated. And
I believe it.
the Clash were definitely heavily dependent on their drummer. Their drummer happened to write the song "Rock the Casbah," the melody portion of it, not the lyrics. Joe Strummer socked Topper Heaton, who was the drummer, when he tried writing the lyrics, and said, "I write the fucking lyrics for this band." And actually, "Rock the Casbah," no one knows to this day exactly what the hell he's saying. But yeah, Deftones, I saw them in 2010, and it was in Times Square, the Nokia Amphitheater. I don't think it's called that anymore. Right in the heart of Times Square. Awesome amphitheater. And the It was all men. Just nothing but it was so diverse too. A lot of Hispanics, shit ton of Hispanics. And we got general admission. Awesome general admission pit. And I'll never forget, it was all guys. It was just straight up all men, like straight up
Yeah.
masculine energy, like I've never experienced in my life. It was like something from Braveheart, like that's what it was. And it was a battle royale of everyone just moshing, having so much fun. My best friend, he was 6'3". He was a linebacker in high school. My best friend at the time, and we started like corralling a bunch of guys and like we gotta go after those guys. And they were like there was a bunch of guys, like 4 or 5 of them, like 6'5", 6'8", you know, just guys that are well above 6'5", 250 pounds. And me and my friend, we rounded these Guatemalans and we just started attacking these fucking barbarians. They're like, what the fuck? We're like, oh, we're just having fun because you're the biggest dudes in. You're like, all right. And I'll never forget the Rocket Skates. This is when Diamond Eyes came out. Rocket Skates started opening up, and there's a big drum roll like before it kicks in. And I'll never forget this Guatemalan just starts breakdancing in the middle of the pit, and everyone just clears for this little fucking Oompa Loompa, and he just starts breakdancing during the drum breakdown, and the whole place just erupted because this fucking little dude. It was so much fun. My friend, I told him, dude, do not take Molly's going to a Deftones concert. Do not take Molly's going to a Deftones concert. He took it. I swear I think he had like a heat stroke or something. Long story short, the show ended around maybe like 8 or 9 o'clock, and there was a chain Mexican restaurant like a couple blocks over. We were planning to meet our other good friend who was at some rave or something with his soon to be future wife. We met up with him at the restaurant. It was around 8 or 9 o'clock. Me and my friend fell asleep in the restaurant. Fell asleep. That's how exhausted and how much fun we had at that Deftones concert. I found some clips on YouTube of that show, like some grainy potato vision footage. I sent it to my friend maybe like a year ago. Remember this? And I found like a little grainy image of the two of us. And it was my friend basically just wiping the sweat off of his face. And going to see them with you was my second time seeing them. Beautiful suburb of Atlanta, and I really appreciate you showing me around Atlanta. And I don't know if you remember, like we were driving through the suburbs. First and foremost, the amphitheater that we went to in Atlanta was outdoors, and I think it was a college that we went to, and it kind of looked like medieval times because everything was all this brown stonework and cobblestones. Yeah. And the houses that surrounded the amphitheater, it was all tree lined, beautiful area. And all the houses looked like something that you'd find in like Bavaria. I don't know if you remember that so much. And I was making a point to you because I was the one driving. I'm like, God damn, these are beautiful houses over here. And there were houses that were like on one street that they were all painted the same color. That was so dope, man. And I was blown away by the beauty of Atlanta.
Yeah. Those that neighborhood and just all the greenery there and what would you call it? Like the prune gardens and stuff. Like everything was just like really, really nice, and it was like tucked away. You didn't even really know that there was amphitheater there.
Yeah, that's what was so cool.
Really
like,
hidden.
We drove and like out of nowhere, like where the trees kind of parted, and there's this gorgeous amphitheater in the middle of it. And then we got Bengali food at 1 a.m.
Yes, that's right. We got that. We stopped at that Indian place that was still open, and we just ate like curry and shit. That was legit.
Yeah, man. So why don't you fill us in a little bit about what your life has been since the last time I seen you? Again, it's been a couple years, and we haven't done a show since around that time. So why don't you give us a lowdown on what your life has been like being a bug man?
Yeah, just living the bug life in my bug apartment, man. Ever since COVID happened, I've been like full-time remote working in, the tech field. Most of my social interaction when it comes to work is through Discord. It's been fucking weird. This last year, tech and entertainment took a huge shit, so every place laid off. But I had a severance package. I took a little vacation, and now I'm back. I got a new job and chilling. I'm getting ready to relocate here to a nicer place, and dating broads.
Getting your
quit
winky
smoking
touch,
weed.
that's important.
What's that?
Getting your winky touch is important, yes.
Yeah, man, I can't go too long without getting my winky touched. It's got to be yeah, it's got to be once every 2 weeks, or else I start getting irritable.
You get the
So
ants. You get a little
I do. I'm
antsy.
just like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, I'm a grown ass man. I shouldn't be going this long. uh, but
I
yeah, just
yeah.
enjoying being a single man in this situation.
So, kind of talking a little bit about relocating again, circling back to the whole my experience living in Western North Carolina. I'm very happy to be back in New York. Um, it was August of 2023. I had to fly to my cousin's wedding in Rhode Island, and we flew right over basically my home. And I was sitting next to my brother, and we're looking out the window. Me and him are like, "Man, we gotta fucking move back." I'm like, "I don't give a fuck what it's gonna take, but I
Mm.
cannot live in North Carolina anymore. I just
That's
can't
what you
do
were
it."
saying, man. You were
I was hating. I
itching
was
to get
hating
out
hard.
almost as soon as you got there. It felt like almost you were like ready to go. You're like, I can't be dealing with these mountain weasels. I
Yep.
can't live out here.
It was I left not under my. I mean, yeah, technically I left under my own volition, but everything I was working for and trying to accomplish was just the basically the stool was kicked out from underneath me, and I was like, price is skyrocketing. Not sure what the political climate was at the time, and I was kind of just working remote and just kicking my tires. My dad was like, "Why don't you go visit your mother?" And my brother had been down there for over a year at that point, so I was like, "All right, I'll go and check it out." And for the first maybe 6 months, I did dig it. I was like, "Yeah, maybe I can, I can make this work or whatever, make some friends or whatever." And everyone everyone and their grandmother decided to relocate to Buncombe County in Western North Carolina, and it really changed. It changed rapidly while I was there. The
Mhm.
infrastructure couldn't keep up with the demand of people moving down there. There's so many different people, so many different walks of life. And long story short, I just wound up moving back to New York. It's where I'm from. Granted, it's very expensive and it's urban, and obviously the memes hold true to a certain extent on what New York is like. But dude, it's
Yeah.
where I'm from, and my father jokes you lasted longer in Cambodia than you did in your own in North Carolina. And I was like, yeah, man, it's pretty wild. And it
That's
really
funny.
came down to just again the people having so many different transplants. You feel uneasy communicating with others because you don't necessarily know how they're going to perceive you. You don't necessarily know like what their backgrounds are or what their experiences have been. Where in New York, no one really gives a flying fuck. No one really cares, right? And you
Yeah.
can kind of it's easier to be yourself amongst people that are like off the boat immigrant up to like third generation. Uh, again, that's just my experience. And I know you're originally from New York, and you've
Yep.
relocated quite a bit in your life, and you plan on relocating again. I don't necessarily know what your experiences have been because you spent over a half a decade in Georgia. But I'm just want to know what your 2 cents are. Is if you feel somewhat the same way about relocating again?
Man, I've been moving around since I was 18. Like I grew up in New York, like you mentioned, and as soon as I got out of high school, got into college, I jumped across the country to LA, lived in California, lived in DC, lived in Texas, lived in fucking
Yep.
California again, and Seattle, and so I've lived everywhere, man. At this point, home is where I'm at. I can make it work wherever. I quickly identify places I don't want to be, and I create a little group of like-minded people, wherever I go. So I don't really give a shit about relocating again. Like I got nothing here anymore. My company shit the bed last last October and lost half the staff. So the only thing really keeping me here was that and like my last steady girlfriend. So she's out, company's out. There's no point for me to like just burn rent money here. So I'm going to relocate again, be a little closer to family. I work remotely, like my entire industry is remote. So there's just, I
Well,
could go
how
wherever the
old were
hell I
you when you
want.
first left New York?
I was 18. It was the summer. It was this. I graduated high school in 2002 in June. In July, I turned 18, and by September, I was in LA.
Wow. Oh, that must have been a trip being that young living in LA.
It was insane, but I didn't know any better. Like I didn't know any different. I was just a kid. I had a dream. I was following my dream, as cheesy as it sounds, and I realized living in LA was absolutely insane. Um, But every other place has also been insane. Like every place is just fucking crazy. California, though, in its own special way, is just an absolutely different world. Um, and then I did 6 years in LA, and then eventually like maybe 10 years later, I did 6 years in San Francisco. And that's a completely different world. Like North and Southern California are both insane places in uniquely different ways.
Lone Hiker mentions Transylvania County. Transylvania County is interesting. It got that name because of its Romanian population. Lots of Romanian people live in Transylvania County.
Transylvania County.
Yeah,
I like that. That's cool.
it's a couple counties over from it's southwest of Buncombe County of Asheville. So like maybe about an hour south of it. Uh, Romanians moved down there. They thought it looked a lot like Romania, and they renamed the county to Transylvania County. And there are a significant Romanian population there to this day. There's a lot of translators and
I hear
just again a
Romania.
large population of Romanians.
I hear Romania is the place to go. It's apparently on the up, very affordable, still very Caucasian, uh, Christian predominantly. Had a history of communism, so people are a little more based over there, and they don't want to bring in leftist social policies. I've heard it's. I've had a few people recent, like in the last month, mention like Romania as a destination for expats or people interested in getting out and going somewhere.
Passport Bros. I got two
Hmm.
coworkers from Romania. They're pretty based. They're older, and they seem to be very hands on. Like they get the job done. Romanians, man, really a cool group of people. One of them's technically from Moldova, and I joked with him. I'm like, oh, that's like Albania. I know, I'm sorry, not Albania. I go, that's like the Alabama of Romania. He starts laughing because yeah, it is, dude.
That's funny.
Is when my first day meeting my Romanian coworker. I met him, and then he went to Romania for 2 weeks. And I joked with him, "I'll bring something back from Romania for me." And he brought me to his home, and he gave me a Poland Spring bottle. I crack it open, and I could take a big swig of it. And I'm like, "Oh my God, what the fuck did you just give me?" He goes, "No, no, no, that's grappa. I went to Italy, man. That was my gift for
Oh
you."
man, that's
Yeah.
funny.
I live in third world upstate New York. I was recently. I went to Fresh Kills. Beautiful, very expensive. Nice 2 hour getaway from the Hive. In any rate, so kind of want to talk about just general updates on like what's going on with the world. A little bit what's going on with me. If you guys can see the background, that's my grandfather, and he passed away about 3 weeks ago at 89 years old. And if you guys would be so kind, go to Amazon and type in the Brooklyn Rumble. It's a book that he co-wrote with Alex Van Pelt. It's about street gangs of New York City in the 1950s. My grandfather was an orphan. I think when he was about 5 years old, he was an orphan. His brother was seven. Um, his father, my great grandfather, died of a massive heart attack in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and about a year later, his mother passed away from breast cancer. And basically, he was raised in the streets. His uncle, who was the caregiver to my grandfather and my grandfather's brother, was in the European theater of World War II. and he never. And I got to meet my uncle once. He had his fingernails ripped out by pliers by the Germans, and
Jesus.
he escaped the POW camp hiding amongst all the dead corpses. And
Damn.
I think he got
What a
a
fucking story.
bronze star, a silver star, and a couple purple hearts for his actions with the fighting in the European theater. He brought a Luger back, and I don't know where that Luger is now, but he gave it to my grandfather, and I got to see it. And it, long story short, I think he killed the guy to get the Luger.
Hell yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
my grandfather's mom's side was in Europe, dad's side was in Iwo Jima. They both had pretty ridiculous stories.
well, he never discussed the stories. He started talking a little bit about it right before he passed away. Not to me, but to my grandfather. And most of
Hmm.
the stories that my grandfather knew about him, he kind of confirmed that a lot of those happened to be true. I do remember seeing his fingernails though. That I do remember. They're all like gnarled, growing in and shit.
Oof, Jesus, Jesus.
Yeah, peace loving Germans, base Germany.
Yeah.
So it was so. He passed away, and the last conversation I got to have with him was making fun of the there was a male nurse, and my grandfather was like, you're not a faggot, are you?" It
From a
was
better
great. It
from a
was,
better
yeah.
time. Better time.
So he had dementia for the last couple of years. He got two books off prior to him passing away, which uh, which was a nice send off before he started going downhill. My family tends to blame the arm ticket for his demise because he was very much into the interwebs. He was always on email. He emailed me like every day. And
Mm.
right around the time of COVID, like halfway through COVID, he just stopped emailing me. And that was around the time that he got the arm ticket. So my family tends to lean towards that being part of his, you know, turn for the worst. But he lived a
Yeah.
great life. I mean, you go from being a street orphan to being quite successful, fishing every day, married for what 70 years, something like that. He got married when he was 18, 19 years old. My grandmother's still alive, and plan on
Damn.
making a visit to her tomorrow. But yeah, I just wanted to give a big shout out to my grandfather. He was he I actually used to turn to him for advice versus my father. And I remember talking to him about a woman that I was infatuated with when I was about 21 or 22, and she had some mental issues. And when I started rattling off some of her actions, he started completing my sentences. I'm like, God damn it! How the hell did you know that? And he would just start laughing. He goes, "Yo, you should just stay away from her. Like that is an elevator that doesn't go to the top floor. Stay away from her."
Based
So
grandpa.
anyway, so yeah, L.A.
On
Look,
fire.
the fires. Look, you guys can go to some of our older shows that me and I am did, and we covered a situation in California about 4 years ago, and you guys can get a good picture on what me and I am had researched regarding the failed state of California, because it is a failed state by definition. It is the fifth largest
Mhm.
economy in the world, yet has the worst income disparity amongst all the 50 states. And the fires are kind of apropos considering where they had happened. And you living in California obviously know way more about the state and what it's like being an urban bugman there. The only things I really
Mm.
know about it is from what I see in the news, a variety of factoids about its economy, and I did a lot of research on the LA riots, which gave a good snapshot on what California is, even though that happened over 30 years ago. Reading Daryl Gates's book and his deputy police commissioners and what they had to say about California, they were kind of prophetic, 100%. You guys can check out the book Fires and what is it? I'm looking at it. Fires and what the fuck? God damn, hold on. I can't even. My eyes are gone. I'm getting old. 2 books. Hold on. Fires
I'm
and
sure it was
Furies,
accurate.
The LA Riots Chief, My Life in the LAPD, and LA Justice, which is a really good one by Robert Verone. And Daryl Gates and Robert Verone, towards the tail end of the book, both lay out where California is going, and they also made recommendations how to remedy the situation. And the funny thing is, it's diametrically opposed to what these guys had stated on a way to fix a lot of Southern California's problems. I'll let you take it from there. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it, what you have read so far about the situation and such?
Well, I guess it started from what I gathered. It started right around New Year's. That there was a small fire in one of the canyons right around New Year's, and the intense winds from, I guess, the Santa Anas pushed embers, and it took embers up in the wind and started spreading the fires across the different counties and the different canyons, which are like wind tunnel. Like, they're basically wind tunnels. Like, if you think about the geography of the area, the Santa Anas are along the east side, and then the ocean is on the west side, and the ocean is the lowest elevation, and it goes gradually up as you head east. So wind comes in from the ocean, and wind comes up and down over the mountains, and just kind of creates essentially whirlwinds. And those canyons are like fjords up into the mountains, full of trees, full of houses, and the fires just got caught in there, and the winds fed it like an oven, man, and it just turned into a furnace. And huge areas, huge neighborhoods are just decimated, gone. Like, the aerial photos look fucking crazy.
Yeah,
When I was living in LA, I used to ride my motorcycle up and down PCH, up through Malibu, all those multi-million-dollar houses right there, built on the cliffs, looking out onto the water. Those things are all gone, burned to the fucking ground. The canyons where all the celebrities and movers and shakers live. Some of the most beautiful houses and beautiful areas of LA are just toast. Great scenic places to run and ride and just chill out. Fucking decimated. Looks like the apocalypse over there.
Well, there seems to be a heavy focus on one in particular neighborhood where a lot of celebrities have
The
lost their
Palisades
homes.
or whatever.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of fitting. It's a nice send off for Hollywood.
Yeah, right.
Was he
Dude, the
Jamie Lee
Hollywood sign was on
Curtis?
fire. The Hollywood sign was on fire.
I heard that was just a rumor.
No, I got photos. I've seen photos of it. It was on fire.
Jamie Lee Curtis, Paris Hilton, Jeff Bridges, Billy Crystal, native New Yorker, Long Beach, where I hail from originally. Anna Faris, Mel Gibson, John Goodman.
Mel Gibson was on Rogan during the fires, and he was getting. I saw clips, and he was talking about his son. He was talking to his son, who was like monitoring the situation while Mel was out on Rogan.
Anthony Hopkins, Joshua Jackson, don't know who the fuck that is. Bozoma St. John, don't know who that is. Some people I never heard of. Tina Knowles, Ricky Lake,
Adam Carolla,
who's been saying he's been standing on a soapbox for 20 years talking about how bad it is there.
Yep.
Sandra Lee, Eugene Levy, Cameron Matheson, and Rosie O'Donnell. Heidi Montage, Melissa Rivers, Candy Spelling. I guess that's related to Tori Spelling. Don't know who they. Miles Teller, Milo Ventimiglia, Diane Warren, James Wood, who's been again. He's kind of on our side of the divide politically. Good friends with Oliver Stone. He lost his home, and then there was a director that I
David
was.
Lynch.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't know who he was, to be honest with you. I had to Google his movies. I've only seen one of his movies, Elephant Man, and he passed away. Apparently, he got killed by the fires. You gotta be an idiot. 80 years old, and you're going into a brush fire. I mean, that's not smart, dude.
Yeah, I don't know all the details. I read that he evacuated but died from, died after evacuate. I don't know the details, but I mean, dude, David Lynch was he was really instrumental, I think, in a lot of early '90s TV. Like he did Twin Peaks, which is full of occult symbolism and you know secret society inspired weird dreamlike shit. And I think that was a huge hand in inspiring like the X-Files as a TV show and a lot of pop culture. Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's a tragic. Like I had a pretty close friend. His family they lost their entire house. They had a nice house in the Palisades, and it's rubble now. Um, yeah, it sucks. I mean, but the thing is, like you were saying, Adam Carolla as an example was standing on his soapbox, telling everybody all the problems, and sure enough, every year, I lived there was some type of large wildfire. And basically every season they have some kind of blaze there, but the incompetence of the government out there, they just wouldn't take the steps because of environmental regulations and corruption and you name it. There's something in the way of common sense policies to prevent these types of natural disasters, which lead me to believe, of course, that it was, the plan was to burn out all of these areas to make way for whatever the hell, whoever buys it and whatever they're going to build there. Follow the money. Look at who benefits. Let's see in a year or two who benefits from this, and you can basically put your finger on who was behind it.
Now it's affecting people with homes that are in the tens of millions of dollars. We're not talking like it's another bracket above upper middle class that are getting affected by this.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So these people will not have the money to rebuild a $20 million home. I highly doubt they would even want to think about rebuilding a home in the Palisades after experiencing something like this, especially if the political climate doesn't change. But it's funny because like the state government has no one to point the finger at but themselves, which I think is interesting. And I also find that this is happening at a time where you're seeing this political shift, though I think astroturfed, which we can get into, where everyone's now rallying against DEI. You have the I don't even know anything about the mayor of Los Angeles. Obviously, it's a DEI hire. I mean, that goes without saying. Deer in a headlight stare, talking to the media. No leadership, no accountability. And more importantly, you should have known this was going to happen. Like that's the thing. And again, in my experience in Asheville, is that people that have these type of political views have these ideas that it can never happen here. It wouldn't happen to me. Where
Right.
where those who have more of a right leaning view of the world are a little bit more prepared. They would not be running back into their house that's on fire for their dog, right? It's just like that's it. Dogs, we're not going back there. We're not doing that. Like we can't save our heirlooms. Like it's. I'm not risking my life for these things. What
Yeah.
also I find interesting, considering how much money and wealth and bright minds live in California, you can't pump water out of the ocean to put the fires out. Like the Palisades is on the water, dude.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. I mean, they this is all stuff I've listened to people bring up all of these points, and they'll point to, oh well, you're trying to save some fish, so you can't redirect water from lakes and fill reservoirs. Like it's just a jumbled mess, a yarn ball of just regulations and nonsense, lobbied by different ridiculous either environmental groups or some kind of cause or some busybodies, and all these people that they're insane. They're crazy narcissists. They have nothing better to do, and they have no real problems, and they live in paradise. So they have to create issues, right? And then no leadership, like you said, no responsibility. No one's actually in charge. There's no adult in the room.
Well,
Everybody's there.
Like who exactly?
Yeah,
Who do you have? Who can you pin this on? And it's not one individual. It's hundreds, if not thousands, of people that you can actually pin it on. You can pin it on the people that lobbied for destruction of certain critical infrastructure that are needed to help prosper a complex city such as Los Angeles. And you have to realize that LA is sprawled out. Most of the West Coast cities are sprawled out. Phoenix is
yeah,
basically a large suburb. LA is technically a large suburb. It's not dense like you would see on the East Coast, the Midwest regions,
that's right.
like a Philadelphia or a DC, or an Atlanta for that matter. Those areas are much more clustered. They're more nodules. Like you have your ground zero, which would be like Manhattan, and then it gets slowly starts to be spread out to where you get to the suburbs. Places on the West Coast are just straight up suburbs with little to no high rises. So
Yeah, LA is like the definition of urban sprawl. Like there
yes,
is a concentrated downtown where you have a couple of high rises, a couple of large buildings, but it's only a few blocks, maybe like 6 by 6 blocks of large buildings, maybe a little larger. It's hard to say. I can't really remember. But after a certain, radius away from those downtown, quote unquote, LA buildings, it all becomes 1 to 2 story, sometimes 3 story buildings, and just sprawl. It
right.
goes on for miles and miles of just 1 to 2 story buildings. And that's why it takes fucking forever to get anywhere in LA, because everything's connected by gigantic freeways, and it takes a minimum an hour to get anywhere. Like if you're going to travel from one side of LA to the other, you have to account 30 extra minutes, 45 extra minutes, because not only is it sprawled out and super far from everything, but the density of people and people on the freeways, just the population is insane. It creates like ridiculous traffic. I remember when I was after college, I used to live in West LA, right near Venice Beach, and my job was in Woodland Hills, another place that's burning to the ground right now. And you'd take a freeway north, and on a clear day, it would be like maybe a 30-minute drive. But in the morning, it was an hour and a half in rush hour to get from Venice to Woodland Hills. So I wound up buying a motorcycle because you can white line in California, and I was able to commute at a decent rate because it's a parking lot on the freeway. So you're just zipping by stopped cars, essentially. You're just driving right down between all these stopped cars, and it's probably safer to be doing that than to be driving, or trying to make any kind of real speed with your car, because everybody's just bumper to bumper. It's just a mess. It's a ridiculous, congested, polluted mess. And it's a shame because it's one of the most beautiful places in the country. Like I go to California, Southern California, once every couple of years to see friends and stuff, and sit on the beach and drive through the hills, and it's gorgeous. But it's just full of insane people. It's just full of insane people with terrible policies. And then once you get out of the cities, you realize that it's the city that's the issue, because in the rural areas outside of like the major hubs, San Diego, LA, and San Francisco, it turns into rural farmland, like normal people, people who are clearly not with the left wing agenda, but they get outvoted because of the density of people in all of these major urban centers. Like the majority of California are relatively right wing, if not centrist, level headed, common sense people, but they have no voice because of the voting
Yeah,
power
it's
of
it's
the
heavily
metro
stacked
areas.
against them. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I
But
don't
you
know.
go out into the nice areas, they're beautiful, beautiful areas. Like the state is amazing, and there's so much, like you saying, the economy is amazing. Farms and cattle and all kinds of agriculture out there. Um, but it's just ruined by the policies of the major cities.
Well, how true is it that the fire? I know one fire was started by a homeless person, by a vagabond, apparently.
Oh, I'm sure a lot where they were. I saw reports that they were catching people starting fires. Um, they were arresting a lot of people starting fires. Some homeless people, some illegals. Um, I don't know. I'm sure the list goes on. You can just imagine who's like once one happens and it's starting to create some chaos. Like there's always people. Like LA is like it's like a jungle, man. Like there's no cohesion. There's no social what would you say? There was really no cohesion, I suppose. It's completely low trust. It's like the lowest trust area I've ever lived in. And when things pop off, there's people who come from other areas to capitalize
Right.
on problems. So, once one or two fires is going and people are panicking and there's chaos, people will come to create more chaos. They're like, oh, we got some fires. Let's go start some more fires. I believe that's the mindset of some of these people who are just, these are the people that the laws are made for because they're just like the psychopaths who can't be a part of society, and they capitalize on human tragedy and chaos. And they're all in. There's a lot of them in California.
Well, from my understanding, a little bit of what I had researched a few years ago, a lot of smaller towns on the West Coast, the police in these smaller towns like in Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, the cops would take the unwanted from these smaller towns and stick them on a Greyhound and just stick them on a bus and just drive one way and just drop them off the middle of LA and let them fend for themselves because the
Yeah, I've
homeless
heard of that. Yeah,
population has exploded in California. And a lot of them are not actually from California; they are from the periphery states, and because it's so open and welcoming of kind of the dregs of society, that is a bulk of the population now that resides in Southern California, on top of uh, Hispanics, a lot of New Wealth Chinese. How they got their money is neither here nor there. It's a whole other topic unto itself. But you can see
yeah,
that like a lot of the West Coast is becoming more of a vassal and a vassal to money from other countries. And again, it's like you said, there's no cohesion because everyone is from somewhere, but aren't actually from the state itself. And New York, it has somewhat of that, but it's not necessarily as individualistic as the West Coast. And I think a lot of it has to do with the climate and the general culture at large of California, where its founding is kind of the 49ers, right? I mean, it was founded because of the gold rush. So you got a lot of
yeah,
people,
yeah.
lapsed nobles from the East Coast, trying to find some economic opportunity on the West Coast, and again, it wasn't necessarily people that were able to hack it on the East Coast. A lot of people would consider the California and the West Coast at large as the New World, where the East Coast is Old World. So in the East Coast, people kind of retain some type of ethnic identity, where in California, it's more of mystery meat and there's obviously no like religiosity to it. And
Yeah.
my from the only a handful of people I've met from the West Coast, they're foreign to me, man. I mean, like, I have more in common with someone from Tibet than I do with someone from California.
Yeah, man. California is a different place, dude. Like the people there are fucking weird. Like I could
Yeah,
tell you, I could count on one hand the friends that I still have from my time there, and the good ones were people who went to LA from outside of LA, who lived in like the more rural areas, the white areas, the still Christian areas, or had ideas of community and were raised decently. But the people I interacted with who were raised in LA itself, man, we're talking people who I just don't have a lot in common with. And I'm from New York City. Like I'm from the city myself. Like I'm
right.
from a urban environment where you got to watch, you kind of watch out, and you're never really quite sure who to trust. But it's just it's a different vibe on the West Coast. And I'll tell you, man, everybody from Southern California, just assume they're full of shit. Like anybody you meet and you're like, oh, I'm from LA, or I'm from, OC or something. Those people, just assume you're dealing with someone who's full of shit. Just keep them at arm's length. Uh, make them, let them prove to you that they're not, trying to take advantage of the situation, because it seems like that's the vibe there. People who go to LA to try to be somebody, you never really meet somebody who is actually who they are. They're very superficial. They don't stand on anything. They will change their opinions to fit the conversation or to fit whoever they're hanging out with. They have different faces for their different groups because they want to fit in. They want to be, get in with some group, or they want to become an artist or become an actor, or they basically just become whoever they have to be to try to succeed there. And it's it's a very superficial place. It's a very degenerate place. It's full of some of the most serious human suffering takes place in
Right.
LA. It's really gross. It's a gross place. I did not enjoy living there. I got out, when I had an opportunity to leave, I did. Yeah, beautiful. Like I remember when I first moved there, I was living in a concrete cube with a drain on the floor. It was like one of the shittiest apartments I've ever seen in my life. There was a shared bathroom on the floor. So it was like 4 concrete cubes, which were the apartments, and then a shared bathroom for each floor. And the girl who lived across from me was a fucking smoke show. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, how is this like gorgeous woman like living in this shithole? This same shithole that me, a poor kid, is living in. But that's what happens. People come out there to try to be somebody. They live in poverty. They live in the shittiest places because it's the only place you could afford, because everything is ridiculous out there. Or they shack up with, in an apartment with 3 or 4 or 5 other people to be able to afford it, because you're probably bussing tables if you want to be an actress or something. And yeah, you just get taken advantage of by the system. You just get taken advantage of by these different, entertainment or tech or, whatever you're going there to be a part of. They chew you up and they spit you out. And it's the same story. And, 5-10% of people who go there make something of themselves and get into it and succeed. And you don't see the rest who become burnouts, drug addicts, poor, homeless, or go home to wherever they came from, with ridiculous stories of their time there. The smart ones get out, I think. I got out as soon as I could. I went there to get my career going. Once I realized that it was just a complete shithole, I knew like there was no long-term here. I knew I couldn't really flourish in a place where I could barely afford rent. So I got some experience. I got a few titles under my belt, and then I got the fuck out.
I remember reading an article about Sausalito, which is near Alcatraz in San Francisco, about people living on boats in like old yachts and power craft, and the cops would sink their boats. Cops would sink their boats, literally, I guess, open fire or just sink their homes more or less, because the people of Sausalito and Waldo and that whole area just had enough of just looking at derelict boats sitting out in the bay. And it's like, to me, just like that story alone horrifies me, because it just shows you that you can't keep pushing homeless away. You cannot. That's the thing. Like in this circle, this kind of coincides with my article, is that people who have leftist views, it's out of sight, out of mind. They don't acknowledge the ongoing chaos around them. Like it's the equivalent of them walking down a walking down a street in a ghetto with a Rolex watch, thinking nothing's gonna happen to me, and the what their way of trying to coalesce and avoid these not so nice parts about life is they want it to go away, and they tend to vote for policies that pushes the problems away. But the policies have these nice platitudes and these appendages to them, where it's rolled out in such a glorious manner, and then they dial it back where you don't get the what it is you're trying to achieve, because it's not feasible, and then you dial it back to the point where it's half-assed and it actually hurts the people that you're air quote trying to help.
Yeah, it's a lack of kind of like understanding reality. It sounds good. Oh yeah, I'm hoping to. Yeah, of course I want to help the people. Yeah, let's do this and that. But as long as I don't have to see it, as long as I don't have to do anything, as long as I don't have to deal with it, I'll go. Like you're saying, Sausalito. I mean, Sausalito's gorgeous. Like right north of San Francisco in wine country, boats, beautiful houses with like Spanish tile roofs, like amazing views, like people with money coming out of their nose. But then if you go to the south side of San Francisco, where they push all of the problems, it's like a demilitarized zone. You know, the Tenderloin and the Sunset and some of those areas in the southwest side of San Francisco are a nightmare, like a living nightmare for the people who live there. But you don't got to see it, you know. Like there are areas in San Francisco that you walk around and you wouldn't even know that those problems are there, because they're wealthy, they're policed, that they push the riffraff out. It's so groomed and nice, and there's so much money there. You know, like the elites and the wealthy people who work and live there, a lot of times they don't ever see the consequences of their decision making.
Right.
But I think it has gotten to the point now, like where San Francisco. I haven't been in San Francisco since 2016. I think 2015, 2016 is when I left, and it was getting really bad at that point. Like it was getting bad. So I think with COVID, it just made everything even worse. And I think a lot of people fled those areas, especially, you know, with the remote work and the tech world. Like people, if they didn't have to live there, there's no point of living there. Like when I first moved to San Francisco, I think it was 2012 maybe. I think 2012 or 2013 I moved there, and every year I had to move one city south because of just expenses. Like the price of things just got so crazy. My rent would go up $200-300 a month every year. So it was cheaper to just put everything in a U-Haul, move one city south to get a place that rented for my old rent price. And by the time I left, I was down in damn near San Jose, which is, if you know the layout of the area, that's South Bay. It's like basically out of the peninsula. It's you know, my commute to work was went from being like 15 minutes when I first moved there to being 45 minutes by my last year there. So it was like, it's just an insane place. It's just crazy, too expensive, too crazy, really violent and dangerous. Um, and it's ridiculous because it's so wealthy. Like, you can't afford a house there. You know, even making like a decent six-figure salary, like I couldn't buy anything there. It's like completely out of scope. Um, and you know, all these companies, they're paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're all commuting from areas outside of the Bay because that's the only place where you could actually get a house. Like if you had a family, you know, you're commuting over an hour because the affordable places, the actual neighborhoods that are not complete shit, you got to drive really far to get to. It's bizarre. It was a bizarre place. Same with Seattle. Like Seattle was another bizarre place, man. Like
I know nothing
Seattle,
about Seattle. I know
Seattle
absolutely
was
nothing.
fucking nightmare. Like I would get off the bus. Like I lived outside the city in like the burbs, and it was nice enough ish. Um, but you take the bus into the city, and I get off the bus, and I'd step over people on my way to work. Like people would have needles in their arms and be zonked out, completely gone, or like laughing to themselves, like staring into the middle distance. And I had to step over these like people,
Yeah, again, that
and
that's that has a lot to do with the climate. That's what I'm saying. Like in New York, you would die because it's going to be in the teens next week. You see what I'm saying? Because the weather is so pleasant, and all you really have to do with is rain more or less, thunderstorms, and because you don't
yeah, well,
necessarily have like you don't have natural disasters as you do on the East Coast where you have hurricanes like in Myrtle Beach. You know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, in California, that's definitely the truth. In Seattle though, it gets cold as shit. So I don't know how the homeless people survive there, but like they have a tent city underneath the freeway called the Jungle up there, where they're always pulling, you know, they're pulling bodies out all the time, and the cops go in and they look for, you know, they're always looking for people, and they tell you like don't go into these certain areas, you know, at night. And I don't know, I just got so tired of it. Like you basically have to turn it off, because if you really wanted to help people, like you'd be stopping every five
Right.
feet. Like, oh my God, there's like a child here who is like shooting up, and then like what am I supposed to do? You know, like what can you do except like kind of like go cold to these things and just ignore them and step over people, get out of the way. You know, homeless people would like they would climb into like the auxiliary stairs in the back of the office building I was working in, and like pass out from doing drugs, you know, in the stairwells. And like you'd be literally trying to push the door open with a person on the other side who's passed out, and you can't open the damn door because they're like, you know, they're just completely out of it, against passed out against the door. And it was such an insane place. I had to leave. I could not keep up with it. I'm like, this place is, and it's like normal. People are just like, oh yeah, this is just Seattle. Yeah, it's a shame, but you know, gotta do my everyday life. You know, gotta get to work.
Well, I
I'm
think
like, yeah, you do, but like, how can you live with all of this insanity? Like, it just felt crazy to me. I couldn't take it.
what I what they on because look, because everything is like we live in like a bizarre nursing home, and that's what I refer to America as. First and foremost, like when I the suburbs in New York, there's kind of life to them. There's like if I can walk, about 20 yards, and there's people outside you can probably converse with or whatever. And there's kind of like there's a little bit more of a life in the suburbs over here. Maybe not so much on Long Island, because it resembles more of what I'm referring to, which is like a dead zone, like a sterile environment where like an HOA where your lawn has to be manicured a certain way. You can't
Yeah, yeah.
you can't have like a yard gnome, like a lawn gnome, or you can't be putting up Trump flags or whatever like that. Like that's most of the United States. And like when I lived in North Carolina, I saw these type of suburbs that I found to be horrifyingly depressing. Like if I lived here, I would want to blow my fucking brains out. Like give me the fentanyl now. It's so depressing. And like if you live in like a dude, if you live in like a suburb in like a part of Phoenix, and you just like go on Google Maps and you just zoom in on some random street that you can see was not like the street
Oh
itself
yeah.
is made in like a bureaucratic manner where it has to be a specific the dimensions of the road are in the it's like perfect, it's cookie cutter, it's
Yeah.
boilerplate.
Yeah.
And
My
that just
parents
that
lived in
alone is
Phoenix.
just like wow, that is like damn, just keep that the fuck away from me.
Yeah, yeah, everything in Phoenix is all laid out to be HOA and neighborhoods and stuff, and they're all laid out like you were saying in there's a main throughway, and then there are offshoots from the throughway that kind of loop around to discourage people from cutting through
Like
and to
these
keep the
like
speeds low.
a 4 lane like half-ass highway that you can't walk. It's not walkable, air quote,
No, no,
right?
it's not
So
walkable. No.
it's dangerous to go like from like to cross from one street to another. Where in New York you don't have that. You can cross each street, and then
Yeah.
you see with the whole sustainable development aspect of things where they're trying to force cities to look in that manner, but again it's not organic, it's still heavily bureaucratic, it's still heavily regulated to the point where
Hmm.
it still lacks that type of organicness that really would make a city strive, because most cities, at least on the East Coast, that were made and kind of planned out took decades, if not a century, to make. So it's got more. Again, I'm using the word organic, but you can see that it was that the kind of the free market hand built in such a manner where it's kind of still thrives. Where if you have more of like this central planning, like you would see in China, it fails on it. It just I wouldn't say it fails, but it's like the downtown, air quote downtown, would be a Panda Garden. It would be a Dunkin'
Yeah.
Donuts. It's
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
shoe cobbler, or it's not some Pakistani dude running a convenience store with his family.
Yeah. No, it's all
It's
fake
private.
and
It's all
built
like
up.
private equity where everything's again.
Yeah.
And when I use the word regulated, I'm not necessarily talking as from a government standpoint. I'm talking from private equity standpoint where insurance dictates how your business is going to operate. And if you don't operate in such a manner that the insurance company dictates, or the lender or the landlord states, you can't have it. You just can't have it, and that's why you get this sterilization in a lot of places across the United States. Because again,
Yeah, it is sterile.
again,
It's all
my
planned.
right, it's all
They
planned.
want
So
people to transplant there, so they build fake places. They
right,
build the strip mall with all of those, like the
a nursing
Chipotle and the
home.
Dunkin' Donuts. I mean, it is a big nursing home. Like a lot of those places are for people like boomers, over 55 communities, golf courses,
Right, it's a big
communities
55
built around.
community, what most
Yeah,
suburbs are like. There's the
yeah,
Costco and
that's what
Best
it is.
Buy that are,
Yep.
up the
Go.
road. Can't necessarily ride your bicycle there because you'll get fucking whacked by a tractor trailer, but it's there and you can drive
Yep.
there.
Yep.
Pave
And it's
paradise,
all
put up
fake
a
too, because
parking lot.
it's all in the desert too. Like Phoenix, especially, like you can't actually. It's so hot and the climate is so bad. You really don't even leave during the day. Like you can leave early in the day and you can leave at night, but most of the day you have to be inside under AC controlled climate or be in a pool or something. And the sun is super fucking oppressive. It's just so hot and dead out there. If it wasn't for modern technology, nobody would live there. These
Right.
places they're all manufactured homes. They're all like basic cookie cutter homes built by construction companies that have like bought a huge section of desert essentially, and then built the same two or three houses in fake neighborhoods, and they sell them to people who want to escape um, worse places. Worse places, I guess, and they make it kind of alluring because it's all very modern, and you have your health club, and you have uh, all the fast food places you want, and all of these different things. But it's like a dead fake place. My parents lived in Phoenix for almost 10 years, and they have one friend. They have one friend from that entire time
Yeah.
that they still talk to. Everyone's transient. Everything's superficial. Even the friendships, they're convenience. Like, oh, I guess we're friends because we see each other at the health club, but we don't really know each other. And then when you leave, that's it. It's all over.
It's all over, right? So you don't have a long lasting bond with people. That was again my experience living in North Carolina. Like you make friends one day, they're gone tomorrow. Go back to where they hail from, or they find another opportunity a few hours away, and you never see them again.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's also what it's like for me, man. I've moved to a lot of places, and every time I leave a place, I have like one or two people I still chat with. We wish each other happy birthday and Merry Christmas and stuff. But the majority of people, they just fall off because they're really only friends of convenience because you went to the same gym, or we worked together, or whatever. We were neighbors. It's very bonds are very weak.
Yeah, well, that's across the United States now. I think a lot of people of our generation are now realizing how we got here and realizing what has been done wrong. And I think that's what the cultural shift now politically is kind of signaling. But the problem now, and what I see, is that the current administration that's coming to power, I won't even call it power, but people are asking questions on why because look, millennials now are now getting closer to middle age, and a lot of the dreams and aspirations have not come to fruition. So they're asking a lot of questions on why things are the way they are. What the hell was that shit during COVID? And people are just generally pissed. Now, the problem, though, is that I think the political class and the cloud people, I want to call them whoever is controlling the system, is
Brazilians.
They're dropping a lot of this DEI stuff, the woke culture, everything that we can't stand, everything that we've discussed.
It does seem like that. It does seem that way.
This is the thing. Like, we can't. I don't think anyone's for it. That's the difference now. Like, you could have pulled that off 25 years ago and hoodwinked us to go into bombing Iraqis, but now it's not happening. It's you can see the backlash with Elon Musk and his tweets. And Trump backpedaling on a lot of the things that he stood for, at least in 2016, and what got him elected now. People are already saying, "Fuck no, you're not doing that." No.
Yeah. Well, people are so much more aware now. That's one of the beautiful things of the internet, and I see some stuff that I never would have expected, like in 2016 or earlier, like just the memes and the awareness of who's pulling the strings. I see so many memes. I'm not going to go die in the desert, for our greatest ally. I mean, I see the awareness now, and I think a lot of this this rage against the DEI stuff is because the far left have decided to bite the hand that feeds them, and it's okay. It's okay that the right wing are anti-Brazilian. It's okay that the right wing, they're the bad guys, they're the Nazis. But the left wing, they're not allowed to be directed towards their leaders, their handlers. But they have been. They've been, like, the whole Palestine situation. People on the left have been very anti-Israel, and I don't think you're allowed to do that. So I think that a big part of the anti-woke, anti-DEI thing is to kind of crush that and reorganize and recreate a new left wing, like whatever the next incarnation of it is going to be. They have to get rid of this current one that's kind of gotten out of control. They no longer have the ability to steer it like they once did. They're aimed at the wrong enemy, so they got to get rid of that and then recreate it. So that's kind of my theory about why we're seeing things shift the way that we are.
My thing is you can't dial it back. So now that Pandora box has been opened with DEI and woke and
Yeah.
kind of being more accepting of different preferences and individuals, you're not dialing that back. That they ramped it up so much the past 6 or 7 years. And keep in mind, a lot of it was while Trump administration was in power. You're not undoing that, so you're just dialing it back. You're lowering the flame down, and then probably another 5 or 10 years it'll roar right back again. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, you can only pull back so far, right? Because even if the messaging from the top isn't all woke and pro DEI and pro LGBTQ, like all of a sudden, right? Like there's like a complete shift. Like 1 week everything was normal, and then the next week it's like, oh, we're distancing ourselves from this shit.
Right, you got
it's
AOC's
so bizarre.
removing pronouns out of her Twitter bio.
Yeah, that becomes news. I think that's insane that's news, but yeah, there you go. But the thing is, you still have this army of people, and back to talking about like the West Coast, the left coast, you still have all of these people who are totally brainwashed and like all about that shit. So even if the messaging from the top isn't pushing all of that, you still have all of these individuals who still think that way,
right,
and are still trying to get it into everything. So it's I don't have any idea what it could possibly look like. But it's just bizarre,
right,
So
you got Mark Zuckerberg, who I have my own opinions on and theories on.
Yeah, well, they made me do it, bro.
Here's the thing with Zuckerberg. I don't think initially he was on board for any of this, because you could see when he discussed a lot of these concepts early on, he was extremely uncomfortable. I remember when he was being roasted at Capitol Hill, he was just shitting a brick because he knew what he was doing was wrong. And I think that's one reason why you saw him go on Joe Rogan, because I honestly think he didn't want to do any of this shit, like straight up. Like I think that's why you're seeing him be kind of like the lightning rod for CEOs and for the billionaire class, saying that, hey, listen, what we did was wrong. I wasn't on board for it, and he's backpedaling quite a bit, because I truly believe he initially did not want to do any of it in the first place, and he's kind of
I can believe that.
He's kind of saying
Zucky's
that
a nerd.
The government was the federal government was forcing me to do this, so on and so forth. I'm kind of like just paraphrasing the cliff notes of what he was talking about on Rogan. I mean, but you could see that he's trying
nerd,
to.
Right?
He's like I said, I don't think he generally wanted to do any of this in the first place, right? And
I could totally see a reality where he gets strong.
He knew it was damaging Facebook, and Facebook is kind of a hollow shell of what it once was.
Yeah, I mean, I could see a reality where he was strong-armed into it. He didn't know what to do. He's like barely ready to be the leader of his company.
He's a robot and shit.
Yeah. Oh, hey, someone's at my door. You can keep going. I'll be right back.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm kind of like, you guys know me well enough where I'm kind of fascinated with like the whole anthropology. Not anthropology, the sociology of the United States as a whole, where we're not. There's no cohesiveness in the United States. You look at California, where if you don't necessarily know your neighbor, you're not necessarily going to help them as per se if your neighbor was a family member, right? So James Wood was saying, like, well, when disaster strikes, everyone rallies, everyone tries to help each other. It doesn't matter if you're a Hollywood actor or a homeless person, you're all trying to help one another. But it's kind of like it stops short because it's not a person you necessarily know. In Prior to the Juno incident in World War II, when you went to go and serve in the military, your battalion, your company, and even your division for that matter, was its origins were from where you were from, right? So you'd have a group of dudes from New York City. They would represent one battalion or company. I don't know off the top of my head exactly, but during World War II and the Juno incident, for that matter, the military realized we can't have a large block of a city go and fight, because if that battalion or company or regiment for that matter were to be wiped out, you actually hurt that city when they were to return, because no one's returning because they got their legs blown off or they were killed. So we started mixing regiments and divisions around, where now you could be a Puerto Rican from the Bronx and the guy next to you was from, Knoxville, Tennessee. Is it Tennessee or Knoxville, Kentucky? I don't know. Anyway, point being is that we started mixing people around, and when people started to move across the United States and everyone became somewhat of a transplant, you don't necessarily identify with that location anymore. And that's what I wrote about in Swananoa. Nowhere is a kind of a microcosm of what Asheville is like, where everyone is a transplant and no one has any identity to that land, and it kind of like its cultivation of that land is somewhat spiritually dead, more or less. So Knoxville, Tennessee, yes, thank you, I was right. So anyway, yeah, no, I kind of, for $2 you can get Lamprey to formulate a coherent sentence. Sorry, yeah, I kind of rambled
there you
for
go.
a moment.
That's good.
What'd you
It's
get,
all
Domino's,
good.
bro?
Yeah, yeah, right. No, my brother just came home a little sloshed. He got out of the Uber. Had to make sure he got into the house okay.
Cool. I was kind of more or less discussing about how everyone's more or less a transplant, and again, not knowing your neighbors makes things quite difficult to form a cohesive society.
Yeah, I mean, but that's kind of like that's kind of the broken record of the situation, right? Like it's been going like that for the last 60 years.
Well, with the hollowing out of American manufacturing, it exacerbates a lot of these problems. So, like some like industrial capitalists would be like, oh, let's set up a factory here because there's a lot of people, and everyone would work in that factory,
Mm-hmm.
and they would kind of build a a village around that factory. And now that that's pretty much fucking dead, and everyone's working
Yeah.
remote and in tech and on a
Yeah.
computer,
Mm-hmm.
what do you get?
Yeah, I mean, I spend my whole life sitting in my office working with people in all different corners of the country who we don't even know each other. We can't even go out for beers because we're separated by thousands of miles. So even if I know them, quote unquote, how do I, how well do I know them? How well do you know somebody that you meet over Zoom, right? Like we knew each other kind of because we were talking shit on the internet, but then we would go out. We went to the show. We saw some live music together. We hung out with your boy in Greensville.
Yeah, yeah.
We had some real human contact. So it's a little different, but that's not even something that I experience in tech anymore. Like,
Well, for fuck's sakes, my co-host Iam is what 20 hours
Canadian?
by car away from me.
Yeah, up in the fucking frozen north,
Yeah.
fucking snow Mexicans.
Yeah, I was trying to think, how many people have I met through this live stream? I met you. I met Andy Nowicki. I met Tom finally. And
Oh yeah,
I
hell yeah.
met one follower who also originally from New York and wound up moving to Texas. So womp womp.
Yep. Yeah, I can't blame him though. Texas is nice. I liked Texas.
He seems to like it from what he's told me. So,
Yeah.
but again, this kind of circles back to a lot of MGTOW talking points where, okay, how do you meet the opposite sex? You meet them online. Okay, now
You could, yeah.
you're using
Yep.
a publicly traded company that wants your money to go and meet someone. Where again in the past you would use friends, families, the church, work, college for that matter. That's all gone.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think that there's like, yeah, you could definitely use the internet apps. Like the apps are the apps are pretty solid. You know, if you don't mind playing the game, like everybody who's on there is, you know, well, you need to understand how they work, and you need some game. Like game is really important. But I think like if as long as you live in as long as you live around something like where people congregate, coffee shops, malls, you know, out anything where people are. Like I live down the street from this fucking outdoor mall monstrosity thing that I'm sure is in every city everywhere, you know, where you got all your Starbucks and your sushi restaurants and stuff. And, you know, if you want to meet somebody and you're not in you know, just go to places you like. Like you gotta go out to a place that you like, because then you have a better chance of meeting somebody who at least likes that thing. So, you know, if you have a hobby like or an interest that requires you to go out and go somewhere, you go there because you want to go there, and then you could talk to people. You know, there's like a little downtown with some bars and stuff that I meet girls there all the time. Between like the internet dating and just going out and talking to girls, they're all over. I think it's easy to find girls. It's hard to find one that it fits into your life the way you need them to. That's I think more the challenging part. Like I think I see women everywhere, but
I wish I
how
could see
many
the
of
same. I see nothing but old people everywhere.
that's that sucks. Yeah, no, I mean I think that women are plentiful now. Finding one that has
Yeah, it
the
fits your mold.
correct
I get it. Yep.
you
Yep.
know, I think that's really the key. Like, you know, just finding somebody that fits you real well. And yeah, we, you know, our parents' generation took for granted that everybody in the neighborhood was like Catholic or whatever, you know, or everybody at least had some type of similar upbringing and similar plan for life that helped narrow things down. You know, nowadays, people are raised on you know, modern nonsense. So finding somebody who actually has those types of values becomes very tricky. You know, especially if you live in a big city, you're probably going to run into a lot of like liberal left wing lunatics. So yeah, you're going to have to go through a lot of broads before you find one who is good for you. But I mean, I do think that that's how it's kind of supposed to be, you know, because if even just dating two girls, that's like a ton of my time,
Right.
you know, like that's a ton of time. So you don't need many women, you know, you don't need a lot. You need one or two that fit into your life well, and then one of them will probably fall off, or another one will fall off, or one you might run into who actually does want to make something really happen, and she's going to be doing the right things to stay in your life, and you know, will convince you to commit to her, will convince you to marry her, and you know, will want those
Well,
things.
it
But
circles back. Okay, so you know, women.
if that's what you want, right? If that's
Right.
what you
So the issue becomes like I'm talking to expat aftermath, and he relocated to Miami again. A guy from the Northeast moved to Greenville, wanted to be close to me, which was cool. I moved back to New York.
Mhm.
He goes to Miami, and he's like complaining about like why can't he find a suitable
Well, he's
woman,
living in
so on and
fucking
so forth.
Miami. I mean,
Well,
it's like, what do you expect, homie? You live in like one
here's
of
the
the
thing:
worst
if you
places in the
tell a
world.
woman that you've relocated 10 times in the past fucking 20 years, women are looking at that. Well, they're like, oh, he's not fucking stable. He can just get up and leave at any moment. So women see
Eh,
these things and see your patterns that you're kind of a digital nomad, and they're like, no, it's not what I want. Because if
Yeah, well, that's why you got to go
yeah.
through a lot of women, because there will be a woman out there who thinks that that's cool that you've been following your path. Like, you know, you got to like you got to go through a lot of women to find the one that's for you. And that's why I think guys, they have to really keep their options open, and they have to talk to a lot of women. And you have to also be okay to walk away from women. Like, one of the most important things I've learned is you have to walk away from women you like when they're not fitting into what you need. There's one thing to like really be attracted to a girl, but there's another thing to make sure that she's following your instructions and bringing value to your life, because there's no value in a woman who's giving you a hard time. There's you that even if you like her, even if you're super attracted to her, you have to let ones go that aren't bringing value, like women who are taking, women who give you issues, women who aren't on the same page with you, women who don't appreciate what you're doing. Like you're saying, like, oh, this guy's not stable, he's been jumping around for jobs. But there are women out there who think that that's a good thing. There are women out there who will see like, oh, this guy's making plays, he's making moves, he's doing what he has to do to stay afloat, to stay ahead of the game. People are so different, but there are going to be people for you. It's just a matter of finding them, and that also takes opening space in your life and getting rid of ones that aren't working to make room for the ones that are.
Held by the Dashboard Lights is in the chat. Steve Hoka seems smitten with two exciting new suitors, Weston Decline and Thomas White. How does that make you feel? Jilted?
Oh, hell no.
I spoke with Steve about a week ago for over an hour, just catching up, and I talked to him a little bit about his new suitors, and the only reason why I did chats with Western Decline and Thomas White were because of Steve. So, and Steve's okay. There's an interesting.
I like
thing
the
about,
hell talk. I remember that podcast being really good.
Oh, I'm a big Hell by the Dashboard fan, though he's not. I don't know what his deal is, to be honest with you. The interesting thing about Steve, and I know you guys love Steve, you got to realize something about Steve. He's happy. He's a happy person. He's quite optimistic. He's upbeat, and he enjoys doing shows about things that we talk about. But in his personal life, he's a fairly content and happy person. So
well, that's good.
Yeah, he is, and he's doing pretty well. So I'm happy for him. But he's 52 now. He's in his 50s now, and I kind of joke with him like he always complains about women and demographics and oofy doofy. And I'm like, yeah, but you talk about this shit, but you don't make any changes in your personal life because you're pretty content. And he goes, yeah, that's about right. I'm going, there you go.
Yeah,
go on.
You got to be doing what's right for you, right? Like that's always really what's important. And women are a byproduct of you living a life that you are happy with. Like there is a woman out there who will be for you if you want to go find her, if you want to deal with it. Like I know a lot of people who listen to, your content are probably guys who don't care much for going after chicks. And I respect that. Hey, if that's the choice you want to make, go for it. That's not for me. I love women. So maybe too much sometimes. But I just don't expect them to be something I know they can't be, like I don't put expectations on them that I know that they can't do. And I'm also willing to just, because I've been engaged, I've been in a lot of relationships, and, I've dealt with a ton of them. So, I've gotten to the point where, if a girl's not on my page, I don't get upset. I don't get mad. I just say, hey, go, just go. It's all good. No hard feelings. Go find somebody who, you're on the right page with. I don't care, and then that just opens up room for another one. And, maybe I'll be single for a month or a month and a half or something. And then I'll start dating another girl. Like maybe I'll have two rotating back and forth, and one will fall off, or I'll date one for a couple months and she'll fall off or something. It's just how it is. It's just the reality of how it is. And, you got to make peace with it. But the woman who really loves you, who really cares about you, for you, will be like impossible to fucking get rid of. and I've experienced that. I know it's true. Um,
Yep.
so it's just how it
Well,
is.
the older you get, it changes quite a bit. Dating is a decaying orbit as you get older. I'm definitely want to speak. It's interesting now that I'm closer to 40 than I am 30 when I first did these chats. Um,
This guy's
time.
delusional. That's funny. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No,
I saw that comment and I'm like, that's funny.
uh like my grandfather passing away, and I didn't really have time to stop and think about his passing, even though I was kind of building up towards that. I always thought about him passing away. When it finally happened, I've been so wrapped up in my own world, especially with work, that I haven't had really enough time to seriously stop and think about it. And being in their late 30s, I feel more I feel like I've been having more of like an out of body experience. Like it's Friday night. I know I have Monday off, and I had no time to really plan on what I was actually going to do this weekend. And it's as if now you're just it kind of like just feels like you're waiting for something, but that moment's not necessarily going to come. Like I'm finally kind of settled in. I'm quite content with myself, but now it's like, okay, is this it? What's next? And I know there's a lot of these self improvement like gurus on the internet. Like, what if I told you there's one way that you can? I'm not doing
Yeah.
any of that shit, man. And I think a lot of people find escapism through either work or through working out or dieting or again these self improvement concepts that that don't necessarily speak to me. I don't know necessarily know what you have to say about that, but like would have liked to gone out tonight and stuff, but I was like, man, like for what, you drop $200, you're out, and maybe you're with your boys or whatever, but you're not you're not getting anything out of it. It becomes an anniversary of an event of nothing.
I mean, I would say that you got to do what you want to do. Like if working out isn't something that you want to do, then don't do it. Like I mean, I think that's not good. I think you should work out because you want to work out, but not working out for anything other than staying healthy and staying fit because that's a good thing for you. I think if you're looking for, if you expect any of these self-improvement paths to lead to some kind of end, it's not going to get you what you want. You have to know what you want. You have to be doing it for yourself. Like I don't go out to places I don't want to be. I go out to the same couple bars that I like because I know the bartenders, or I know that it's going to have some good live music, and I go out and I have a drink, I listen to the music, and I chill out. And if there's a cute girl that catches my eye, I'll go talk to her. But if she's any kind of pain in the ass, then I walk away. I just walk away. I don't give a shit because I don't care. I'm there because I want to be there.
Easy
I go to the gym every morning because, well, yeah, it is. Well, that's how you get them. That's how you get them. You just,
what do you have to say about the guys who don't get to go on dates?
I think that those guys can go on dates. They just have to do the work to get there. And I'm not talking about any kind of like weird self-improvement maxing or anything. None of that shit. I'm just saying, like, you just talk to people. You just talk to people, especially in places where you're at. If you like a certain activity, there are going to be women involved. And you talk to them, or you just go around, you talk to people at coffee shops or in line at the store or at the grocery. Like there's people everywhere. You just gotta make the first move, and say, yo, what's up? I'm so-and-so. Like, what's your name? And if she gives you anything besides, oh, hi, I'm Stacy, you just walk away. If she's just, if she's got some weird friction or there's weird energy, you just say like, oh, hey, goodbye. And you walk away. And then you go to the next one, you go to the next one, you go to the next one. Eventually someone will be like, oh, hi, I'm fucking Nancy. I'm just shopping teehee. You're like, cool, let's go out for a drink. Take my number.
Up? You want to suck
Give
my
me a
dick?
call.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
just talk it out,
I mean, mode
bro.
one. I mean, you could be a little more tactful than that, but yeah, I mean, I think it's possible. You know, this dude is naive. That's fun. That's funny. You know, I think that people have a problem for every solution, you know, and your mindset can't be like that. Your mindset has to be you're out doing your life.
Yeah.
You got to put yourself first. You got to be doing what you want to do. You can't be looking after women. Like, life is not about women. Women are a byproduct of having a good life, and you will run into many of them because they're half the population. And eventually, if you talk to enough of them, you will find one who wants to go on a date with you.
Yeah.
And then it's on you to fuck it up after that. Like, women are reflections of men. They reflect you. If you come to them with good energy and they are attracted to you, things will move forward. If you come to them even with good energy, if they're not attracted to you, things won't work out, and you should just leave them alone, you know, until you find one that matches your energy and reflects back to you and wants to hang out. And then deeper relationships and all that other stuff, that's a whole other story. Like, getting into a relationship, that's a different you know, that's down the line. Like, you have to date a while first. Like, you got to meet somebody who is chill and matches your vibe and matches your energy, and you guys have fun for a while, and then maybe you can think about turning that into a relationship. And then if you do turn that into a relationship down the line, you're going to have to maintain it and see if it can even last into something. Because let's just be real, like, most people are not relationship material. This is both men and women, you know, like, being in a relationship and handling women and dealing with women is a skill set like anything else. And women maintaining their side of the relationship is a skill set on their side too. So you need to have a man who has these skills and a woman who has these skills, and they need to cooperate, you know? And most people don't have these. You know, you have to build them. They're like a muscle. You have to work at them and understand the rules of the game. And even still, that doesn't guarantee anything, but it definitely will guarantee that you can start talking to people and go on dates if you want and get laid if if that's what you want to do. But you got to remember, life is not about women. Life is about you and what you want to do in your life. You know, women are just a part of it. You know, they're just an aspect of life like anything else. And if you make things about women, you will always be miserable.
Yeah.
Because it's not about women. It's about you. You have to be okay to let women go. Like, most women are not for you. You just got to let them go.
Yeah, I think a lot of guys in the manosphere have a hard time coming to grips with that. And, you know, I was much younger when a mentor explained to me, he's like, you just focus on yourself and eventually women will just, you know, pop up out of nowhere. And that tends to be the case in my experience. And when I least expect it, I wind up being in a relationship. And then when you think you're ready for a relationship and you think you have all your ducks lined up in a row, that's when you actually don't have a relationship.
Yeah, well, the thing is, a relationship is like, it's work like anything else. Like, everything is work if you want to keep things going. Like, you have to show up a certain way, and you have to be consistent, and you have to know what you want. And then you have to have a woman who will cooperate with what you want and will want the same things, right? And how rare is that? Like, how rare is meeting a really good friend? It's super rare. So it's the same thing with women. Like, it is going to be rare to find a woman who is good for you, who matches the same things you want. So you have to go through a lot of them, but you have to be focused on yourself at all times. You always have to be doing what you want to be doing. And if she is not cooperating, she's not for you.
Right.
That's like that's ultimately the trick, we're in this goofy sphere where, there's all this manosphere shit, this red pill shit, this PUA shit. And that's all simpery. That's all making about women. It's about women, but life is not about women. Life is about you.
Yeah.
Life is about you. So you got to be doing the things you want to do to make your life the best it can be. And maybe you'll find a woman who compliments you well, but maybe you won't. But you have to be okay with that too. You have to be okay with your life and happy with your life, or else you're never going to keep a woman. Like a woman is not going to want to be a part of your life if you don't like your life. If you don't like you, how do you expect a woman to like you? You know, if you don't like your life, how are you going to expect a woman to want to be a part of your life if you don't even like it? You
Well,
know?
that's the thing is when people consume a lot of black pill content, you actually wind up carrying that with you, and people do
Yeah.
wind up sensing that. And
Yeah, it
listen,
oozes
I'm
from you. Women
guilty of
are
it.
more
I
in tune to
enjoy
that
it
shit.
to a point. The bug man,
Yeah,
trust me,
bug
I
man.
get a kick out of it. I enjoy embracing a lot of that. A lot of that. It's in a weird, fucked up way. It's kind of fun. Especially like songs I listen to and stuff, just being about being a not not being a bug man, but like just being like a nihilistic about certain things about the world, and it comes to a point where you wind up just accepting reality. And that's kind of where I am as of the past couple years. Like I understand most of the problems that we discuss on this channel are things that we definitely do not control, but at the same time you have a life to live. You cannot focus on what the fuck Israel's doing in Gaza. That's retarded. You can't change
Hmm.
it. There's nothing you can do about it. Just be aware of it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you focus on like that's one of the negative things about like the information age we're in is that it's so easy to see all of the issues that are going on around the world, and that's the stuff that makes headlines. That's the stuff that gets clicks. So it's always in your face. So it's very easy to kind of like get gloomy about the reality of the of the world. But you got to take all of that with a grain of salt, because if what you're doing right now, you're working whatever your job is, you're trying to make the best of things, trying to get yourself situated, established, invest, make plans, go after the things you want, and live your life. That's really what's important, like being happy with yourself and being content and realizing like reality is how it is. You just have to operate in it. Like you really can't change other people and you can't change the world, but you can change yourself and what you're doing, and
Well, others will
always try to
adapt
make
to
the
the way
best of
you
things.
act. Like one comment says, "Don't be a people pleaser." 100%.
A
Um,
100%. Yeah, don't
yeah,
don't try to
and
please other people.
my job deals with the public at large, and there are so many people trying to get in touch with me, and I'm like, I just don't have time to talk to every single one of you, and I can't allow you to disturb my peace. And if you read, what is it? Rules of Power, it states a lot of that in its book about how you can't be a people pleaser, and if you set things on your own terms, as long as you respect others' boundaries, you'll be fine.
Yeah, yeah, Robert Greene. um, yeah, I mean, like, I stopped caring about basically like if you're not like a friend of mine or a member of my family, I don't give a fuck what you're doing, and I don't care what you do. I don't give a shit. I don't bother myself with these things. If you're somebody who comes to me and asks me for some advice, or we want to bang some ideas out or something, cool, I will totally talk to you. But I'm too busy really focusing on myself.
Right.
And I know that like I need to wake up at a certain time. I got to hit my schedule. I got to hit my routine, because going to the gym, staying healthy, focusing on my job, making sure I'm bringing money in, investing, keeping the different aspects of my life going. Like that is the stability of my life. It keeps me happy. I don't worry about the things I can't control. I don't really worry too much about women and meeting other people. Like they come in and out of your life. I don't care. Like I don't get it. I really don't get attached to people anymore. Like I've had the long relationships dissolve. I've had the engagements dissolve. I've lived with people and I've had to leave them and they've had to leave me. I've had the short flings and the long flings, and I just don't care anymore. Like you can't get emotionally involved and attached to other people, because they're they're
It'll drag you down.
it'll drag you down. Like if you're always worried about other people and you're getting emotionally involved with other people, like you're entering a feminine mind space. Like that's feminine. Emotions are feminine. Masculinity is not emotional. Masculinity is logical, structured, rational, You're going for what you want. It's self-focused. It's a stable ship. Like you are dealing with life and you're making the best of it because you have to be a leader. You have to lead yourself, and then eventually you will lead others.
Take the
That is
God
being a
pill,
man.
bro.
Yeah, well, yeah, obviously, definitely take the God pill. Like that's the biggest red pill is that God's real. Um, but maybe,
Bismillah. What is this?
yeah,
Talk about finding
inshallah.
single mothers. And it's funny. So he says that.
Don't date single
No,
mothers. Don't date.
that's
That's
if
ridiculous.
that's what you want.
Yeah, like that's where
I'm
your
not
if that's where your
encouraging you
mind
to
goes.
do that,
I'm
but
not
if
telling
that's what's
you
going
that.
to make you happy, then whatever. There's the thing about the thing about living in 2025 is that there's no real social structure, so the pressure on you to perform is you're putting that pressure on yourself. It's not from others. And that's the thing you have to realize is because we live in such this hyper modern individualistic society, you actually don't have to conform to social norms anymore. And you can see that like women and the tradcons are trying to coerce men to go in this direction and force men to do things that they don't necessarily have to do anymore. We don't. You really truly don't.
Why would you even want to conform to the social norms of our current
Well,
age?
it's fun. It's
Like the social norms of our current age are completely fucking fucked up. It's all lies and
right, and it's
Marxism.
so funny because past few years of like just dating, even being in a relationship, and just conversing with women. And when I tell women like I'm pretty okay with them, I'm kind of content where I'm at. I'm happy with my job. Well, you need to do this, and you should be doing that. I go, I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
You're projecting what you want me to be, but I'm not in
Hmm.
any of those things. And even if I were those things, you wouldn't like me anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, like everybody has what they think you should be doing. Everyone will be the first person to tell you what you should do, but you have to actually be the one to live your life. You have to live with the decisions that you make, and you have to, you know, be with yourself 24/7. So I don't I'm not interested in anybody. Like really, like if I don't know you or respect you, then I'm not going to really listen to your opinion. And even if I do, like that doesn't mean I have to follow what you say, but maybe I'll store it away, or maybe it'll make sense to me. But you have to just do what's right for you, because there's no one size fits all to life. What's right for me might not be right for you, and vice versa. You just have to figure out who you are, like who you actually are, when you strip away all of the nonsense and all the social programming and all of the bullshit that has been pushed upon you by, you know, family, religion, society, fucking news,
Well, there's a lot of
college.
that's
You
the
got to
thing though.
strip all
There's
that
so many
away.
contradictions now in what you just stated. So you look back throughout history, family formation, and just again what we were talking about earlier about neighborhoods, neighborhoods, your neighbors, the people you grew up with, so on and so forth. All that is gone. The world
Yeah, we're all
you
products.
lived in is
Yeah,
gone.
it's gone. It's gone, and it's not coming back. Like we are all a product of our specific time and space.
Right.
Like we are products of where we are right now. And you can only decide what you want to do and what you can aim for and work as best as you can in that environment.
And the
If you
Messiah
want to
Trump is
be,
not going to fix that.
yeah, no, yeah, right. The Great White Hope is not going to
Right, and
fix it, unfortunately.
that's kind of what is happening now. They're trying to signal towards that part of people's psyche, but when they're trying to channel in that direction, and you take a step back and realize, oh wait a second, we don't live in that. Make like they joking about make America great again, right? Okay, but there's no way for us to revert back what has been done the past 50 years. The nostalgia, the weaponization of nostalgia is what's transpiring right now, and people need to be aware of that. This already unfolded 40 years ago with the Reagan administration. Yeah, the boomers come to get into the age of their 30s, realizing how fucking crazy they were in their teens and in their 20s, disco, cocaine, partying, drunk driving, what have you. They wanted the government to stop or kind of corral people in a way to revert back to a different time. And what you got was more bureaucracy, more regulation, and a more fucked up federal government. So never forget, the government is a reflection on its people. So yeah, now the government's reacting towards the large swath of the population that has completely had it with immigration, inflation, private equity, or whatever. But what's going to unfold is not what it is that you're being promised, and that's the
Yeah,
dangerous. That's my biggest fear with uh, what we're seeing. I don't want to say Trump, but again, just the political ethos that's unfolding in front of us.
yeah, we live in like TV world.
Right.
Like everything is a narrative, everything is based off of nostalgia, or everything is presented like through the lens of like Hollywood or a television show. Like nobody lives in reality. And reality is what happens when you turn off the fucking TV and when you unplug from the internet and you just go out and do your life. Like, you can't be aiming for Beaver Cleaverville right now. Like, yeah, you probably find a girl who wants to live in Beaver Cleaverville. Like, you probably can make that happen. Like, I know people who live in religious communes and they're doing what they want to do and they're doing the best they can. Like, those people do exist. If that's what you want, go for it. But you got to do the footwork to get there. If you don't want that, then don't do it. But make your life what you want it to be as best as you can. Like, you can't change the fact that like tech is falling apart. You can't change the fact manufacturing's fucked up. You can't change the fact that like jobs suck and there's not money here and there, but there's always a solution. There's always something you can do to make the best of your situation. And I'm not fucking rich. I'm not super wealthy. I've just bounced around. I've lost jobs. I've moved across the fucking world to get different opportunities, and I've just tried to make what's best for me. Would I tell someone to do exactly what I did? No, it's fucking nuts. It's not for everybody. But like what you do, it's not for me to tell you how to live your life. Like, you just got to make the best of it. You got to figure out what you want and you go after it. There's no like a manual to living life. You just make the best of your situation. You leverage your talents and you go after what you want. You just try to make a happy, peaceful life. You got to make peace with shit. Maybe you got to go to therapy. Maybe you got to go fucking hit the punching bag. I don't know. Like, I don't know what to tell you except like, you just got to make the best of it. I don't think there's any other way to live life.
Welcome to Patrick's TED Talk.
Yeah, right.
So I said weaponize nostalgia earlier. Let me read an excerpt of an article I've been working on the topic. Nostalgia is simply the sentimental longing for the past as a response to loneliness. The word derives from the Greek word nostos, return, and algos, pain. Many on the right meme themselves to death with ideal images of a bygone era with quotes such as reject modernity, embrace tradition. Yet we have no idea on how to even get back there, whatever there was. Often we reject some of the pitfalls of what life was like back then. Things like mothers being closet alcoholics, fathers beating their children with belts, secondhand smoke, and the constant fear of annihilation from nuclear weapons. We can go even further back to what life was like without electricity, child labor, and bloodletting as a form of medicine, but I digress. This retro appeal is an illusion, temporary, and reinforces loneliness. The lonelier one feels, the more nostalgic one becomes. Its framework grounds a person's reference point, but only within the individual's mind. Everything around them is changing at breakneck speeds, but they stay firm and they are less aware of the problems that surrounds them. Nostalgia is internally self-referential and is an era of militant individualism. The role of nostalgia is situating the dislocated person somewhere. It's if he's been dislodged due to COVID from where he lived his entire life and relocated to another city, there is always something in today's world to keep him inside his retrograde bubble. It keeps him relevant, and this nostalgic connection is purely symbolic and thus not real. This weaponization of nostalgia pacifies an alienated population. Multinationals use nostalgia as a new revenue stream, considering everything culturally is now pause and is not palatable for the overriding majority. We see it in marketing, as noted in almost every past Super Bowl commercial. People experiencing social exclusion will be more inclined to purchase products to enhancing feelings of belonging. Enhancing feelings of belonging, sorry. Depression is a great love substitute long term. Short term consumerism fills the void. Today's Americans are at constant odds within themselves with consistent lack of self confidence and fluctuating self worth. To simply put it, an individual with a lack of identity will identify with his goods. Commercial and political messaging share the same methods and have the same aim: to attach your feelings to a given symbol in order to manipulate you.
Yeah, I want to point out some of those guys are talking about therapy in the chat because I mentioned it, and I agree therapy is a psyop, especially if you go to a Burr or a Steen and they want to put you on drugs, or you go to some woman. You know, we're a bunch of men talking in here. Don't go to a fucking woman for any kind of advice or guidance or therapy. That's insane. You know, when I'm talking about therapy, I'm talking about like real, actual improvement shit, like forgive your parents for fucking you up. Like that's therapy. Like forgive your parents for fucking you up. Forgive the people who have wronged you, who have slighted you. Forgive the women who have fucked up your life. Like stop
Signaling
carrying
Western decline. Western decline. I hope you're listening.
Stop carrying that bullshit. Like stop carrying that stuff. Hit the punching bag. Go for a run. Get some sun. Touch some fucking grass. You know, don't go on some drugs. Don't go lay on some dude's couch and talk about your childhood. That's nonsense.
Don't go chasing goy blocks.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't get on pills and all of that crap. Like, deal with like whatever is, like, all of us have some kind of bullshit that we carry around. You gotta work through that in whatever way you can. You know, nobody is immune to some kind of slight or traumatic type event. You know, trauma is such a bullshit word, but it's, but there is a reality to, like, you go through some bad shit in your life. Maybe your parents fucked you up, or you didn't have parents, or you hold some type of negative emotions. You got to work through that however you do it, whether you do it with religion or you do it with self-improvement or you do it with fitness or something. Like, you got to get that out of your system. That is holding you back. And then something you mentioned in that definition you were talking about, you said identity. People with no identity cling to their material goods and nonsense. Like, your identity is who you are. Like, you have to figure out who you are. And you're not your shit. You are not where you're from. You are not how you're raised. Like, you are an individual person who is the only of you. Like, you are the only you who has ever existed and whoever will exist. You are a unique person. You got to figure out what it is that you want to do with your life, what you want and what you love and what you don't want. And you remove the things from your life that you don't want, and you move towards the things you do want. Sounds simple. It's extremely hard. It's easy to say, it's hard to do, but that is the key to it. I think the true key of being happy in life is figuring out who you are and accepting who you are.
Amen. I tell you what, we'll end it on there because it's coming up an hour and a half. That was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, man, it was great. It's fucking great.
It's been a while.
I'm glad to see. We'll have to do it again.
I'm glad to see you're doing really well, and you're much more positive than the last time we did a chat, which is nice to hear. Yeah, man.
Sorry that I reached out when your grandfather passed. That's a bummer. My condolences again.
Yeah, it just going. It's strange because, like, he went from being poor to wealthy. I just find that our generation's going the complete opposite fucking direction.
Yeah.
It's like, God damn it, dude.
Happens.
Yep, this guy's a basic quack. Isn't that nice? Get Thomas
Nice.
on your stream lamp. No, probably not happening anytime soon after my last chat with him. Probably not going to happen. Next chat will be I got Goldberg, Martin Goldberg. I'll be doing a show with him. I'll probably upload that in a couple of weeks, and I'll be doing a show with Myth of the 20th. And I'll probably reach out to Sandman to see how he's doing. And I'm probably gonna get back into the swing of things. Probably pump out a few more articles. I'm just the daily grind is just beating me up straight. I mean, this is like, fuck, man. The more money I make, the more
Yeah.
problems I have.
Yeah, man. I mean, I lost my job back in October, so I was stressed out of my mind for like 3 months trying to figure out what the hell I was going to be doing. You know, am I going to stay here? Am I going to find a new job? It was the holidays. You know, nobody was hiring, so I was like really stressing. But you know, things with the new year fortunately seem to be moving forward. I got money coming in again, which is nice, and I'm about to move to be closer to family, which is something I've wanted to do for a long time. So things are moving. Things are moving in a pretty good direction this year, but who knows? The year's early. It could be fucking insane by the end of it. But you know,
My year started off with me being sick for 2 weeks and a family member dying. Womp.
Oh, that's brutal. That's brutal, man.
Listen, so goes life, man.
Yeah.
I'm happy to say that I had my grandfather in my life. I never got to meet my other grandfather. He died long before I was born. MGTOW Smurf,
Yeah.
glad to see you. Do a couple shout outs here. Big Lebowski. I see some old names.
MGTOW Cowboy talking about trucking. Hell yeah. Trucking is
Lone
awesome.
Hiker. He's a long-term follower of the show. You have to realize something. Doing live streams, it's if you don't do them for a while, you kind of like lose your momentum. It's like batting practice. So if I ramble,
Yeah, man. I mean,
my bad.
If you want to keep things, if you enjoy the talks we have, you know, and you want to keep a regular schedule. If you don't have somebody to talk to, just you got my phone number. You can hit me up.
We'll punt some ideas back and forth.
Crack open a beer, talk
Hope
some
you have
shit,
a wonderful Martin Luther King weekend.
Oh, I can't wait. Thank you, MLK.
All right, man. Listen, have a good night. I'll hit you up later. Okay.
Cheers. Good night.